This afternoon, we're going to be talking with about Jennifer Close's book, Marrying the Ketchups and Any Other Family by Eleanor Brown. These two best-selling authors have certainly brought out the best and worst qualities of families and family members in these two new books, which I highly recommend. I'm Shari Werb, and I'm the director of the Center for Learning, Literacy, and Engagement at the Library of Congress. And in keeping with the theme of the panel, I too have and am part of a family. Two of my members are in the audience, in fact. There will be Q&A at the end of the event, so please start thinking about your questions. Also, Jennifer and Eleanor will be signing books right after this session from 1:30 to 2:30 on the lower level. So, Jennifer and Eleanor, several weeks ago, I had the opportunity to spend a luxurious weekend reading both of your books while isolating myself from COVID. And so these books were really fun reads for me. I love the characters, the contexts that you put them in, their complex relationships and interesting dynamics between them, and they covered a wide range of emotions that I could relate to. I laughed, I cried. So given that you both wrote these books during a period of the pandemic, a time that challenged so many families, I'd like to start by asking both of you how your own life experience before and after COVID played into the shaping of the characters and the story. So, Eleanor?
Sure, yeah. So this was the book that I wrote in 2020, and it's a very insular book. It takes place over the course of a 2-week vacation, and they're all in a house together. And I feel like that's a very 2020 kind of theme, right? And I wrote this book very quickly, and I think that was partially because I had nothing else to do, right? Other than sit in a room and talk to my editor, who also had nothing else to do other than sit in a room and talk to me. But you know, a lot of people asked me if I was going to specifically write about that, and I know Jennifer has a very different answer to this question. My second novel, The Light of Paris, was based in part on my grandmother's experiences. And she was born in 1900, so she had been alive during the Spanish flu. And I had her letters from that time. And so there was a lot, you remember, there was a lot of sort of unknowns, but I knew that we had gotten through the Spanish flu, right? And I knew that my grandmother had gotten through the Spanish flu and had gone to live this, this long life. And I thought, I want to write into the future, right? I want to write into a future where what matters is this family, right? When we're not all concerned about these big global issues. And so that's what I did. I put them in this very tight room. So they could have been a pod, right? But I really just wanted them to just exist on this family vacation, not as if it had never happened, but in the same way that my grandmother had been able to go forward that I had to.
Mine is kind of the opposite answer. So my book takes place in a restaurant, and I love restaurants. And also, I did not write this book quickly during the pandemic. I don't know. Took me a lot longer than I thought. But I missed restaurants. And I think you can tell the way that I talk about, like, I'll have a character go and sit at the bar and order a glass of wine or a drink and dinner. And it's when I read them back, I'm like, oh, I was really aching for that. It almost like it's like a love letter to food. And anyway, so I think for me, it was fun to let my characters do that. And actually in the last edit, I think it was my agent who was like, they are going out for drinks quite a bit. Could you cut that back? And I was like, I can't. But I think I was just so jealous of them. And then the only thing I will say, I knew I wasn't going to touch it. I had already sort of by accident said it in 2016, which was hard enough to write about, or early 2017. But I have to say, I did feel really sad leaving them because I just knew what was coming for them and what was coming for restaurants. Yeah. So I feel like when I wrote the end, it was like, all right, good luck, you guys. I think you'll do it. Yeah.
That's great. When I was preparing for this interview, I listened to a couple of recordings of you being interviewed on your books. And both of you said that you started writing your books with a question. Eleanor, you mentioned what does it mean to be a family is one of the questions you explored. And Jennifer, you talked about what does it mean to be an adult in your book. So I wanted to see if you could talk a little bit about how you found the answers to those questions.
I don't think I did find the answer. I think someone asked me years ago if there's something that I keep writing about. And I think I do keep writing about families. I think that interests me. And I think I do keep writing about what it means to be an adult or a grown-up or who's in charge. I don't know if I found the answer, but I explored it. Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Yeah, I think that, I don't think I ever find the answer. I always start with questions. I don't think I ever find the answer, but I do think I come to some sort of peace with it. And so that was kind of what I came to here. So Any Other Family is based, I wouldn't even say based, inspired by my family's experience with open adoption. Our son, we adopted, and we have an open relationship with his birth family. And so I was just really curious, and I had a lot of other people ask me questions, what does that look like? Because that's not familiar to a lot of people. And it just makes you ask, like, what is it, right? Is a family something that, do you have to be biologically related? Is it chosen? Is it through marriage? Like, does there have to be some sort of legal thing for you to call yourself a family? What is that? And specifically, how do adoptive families differ from families who are grown biologically? So no, it's not like I can tell you, well, let me tell you what a family is. But I do think that I came to sort of a peace with it, which is that family is the people you call your family, and that's it. And you don't have to have certain terminology for it. You don't, like aunt and uncle are great all-purpose terms. We use those all the time for people who are important. And that every family is wonderful and terrible and the best and the worst in their own way. I feel like somebody said something like that before. I don't know who it could be.
Jennifer, do you want to say more about that in terms of the family that you portrayed in your book about best and worst?
Yeah, they are, like any other family, they love each other so imperfectly, and they show up when they need to. And I think that is the interesting part about family, right? It's like you just keep showing up and that's what you do. But yeah, they have their stuff, because who would want to write about a perfect family? But I think at the end it is like they support each other even if they're mad or disagree or all of that. Yeah.
So I noticed, I guess having read them both back to back, I noticed some commonalities that were really fun for me to see, and that you both chose a narrative strategy that you explored different characters through the various chapters. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you got into those characters, shifted characters and perspectives, if you want to talk a little bit about that.
I actually have a question for you because I'm halfway through the book, but was there, because I always think that's interesting, there was a lot more narrators in the beginning of mine, and I sort of had to whittle it down because it seemed a little bananas. But I wanted it to feel noisy like a restaurant, so I had all these people jumping in. But was there one character that was easier to write for you than others? One that came quicker?
Yeah, so I have these three mothers, and the story alternates among them. And people always ask me, I don't know if they ask you, which character is most like you. They usually say, which character is you? And they're always all pieces of me. There's Tabitha and Ginger and Elizabeth. Tabitha, I think, was the easiest for me to write. I think just because I'm very in touch with my type A Pinterest mom side. And so that was just kind of easy to do. And she also does a lot of management and controlling, so it was really easy for me. Like you, this is a busy cast. I had this problem where there's 3 sets of parents and 4 kids. So at any moment on this family vacation, there could be 9 people in a room. And just the stage management of that is really hard. And I also want to be kind to the reader. reader, there is a family tree in mine, but I didn't want people to have to consult it all the time. So anyway, to make a long story longer, I think Tabitha was the easiest. Elizabeth I was really interested in female anger when I was writing Elizabeth, and so that was really fun because she swears a lot, and that was
my favorite.
Yeah, she was really
favorite,
fun to write. And Ginger was the hardest, but I don't know why that was. Maybe just because sort of like she's the quietest and the most internal. But they were all fun to write, and I was always happy when I got to the point where I could write the next person. What about you?
For me, Teddy, who is the only member of the family that actually cooks, he was the easiest for me, and he's very aware of being nice and doing things for people, which I think I relate to. He was, I think, always the easiest, but Gretchen was the first one that came to me. She sort of started the book. She's fun to write for a different reason because she's so different than I am, because she doesn't really care what people think most of the time. But yeah, I mean, they all took turns. It was just like sometimes I would be chapters ahead on one and very behind on another. And I don't know if I write like a mess, so very out of order, but yeah.
Well, I think that's one of the questions that I have is about switching between characters. So what do you use as a palate cleanser between your characters as you're writing for one and then moving on to a different personality? How do you make that shift?
Oh, I mean, I think it's, I wrote one book in first person. I love first person. I love reading it. And when I finished that book, I was like, I am never doing that again. Because I got so sick of this person. I was like, get out of here. I'm so tired of you. So I think for me, the jumping is just really pleasant because that feels like the palate cleanser. When I'm sort of tired with one, you get to jump to the other one, and then when they get annoying, jump to the next one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think and it's funny too, when you were like, you kind of were sad to say goodbye to them. I am always thrilled when I finish a book. I'm like, I am done with you. I have dealt with your problems. You need to manage them yourself. I'm so tired of you. I hear writers talk about how they grieve when they finish a book, and I'm like, no, you can all die in a fire. Like I'm done with you. So I think that I'm probably ready to move on to the next one.
Yeah.
So would they ever come back into another novel, do you think?
People always ask me this, which is the nicest compliment. Like with the Weird Sisters, people would ask me that, like, is there going to be a sequel, another 10 years on? And I really think no.
It sounds like that.
I'm just tired of them. I'm ready for new people and new problems.
Yeah, I love when authors do it. Elizabeth Strout does it in the most amazing way, and it's so satisfying when you see one of her old characters walk through the background. You're like, I know your whole life story from the other book. Yeah, I don't know that I'll ever do it. I don't know. Never say never, but I'm with you. It is nice to put them to the side when you're done with them.
Right, especially I think like doing that during COVID, it was like extra insular, and I was extra close with these people, so yeah.
So you had just mentioned, Eleanor, about rage in one of your characters, and there was some rage in yours as well. And I'm just wondering, how do you actually work to build up that anger throughout the book? Because it felt very realistic as a reader that person was holding in and bottling up some emotions until a moment came. So I'd love to hear about how you might work through that, and if there are models in your lives that help you with that.
I don't know. It's so funny. There are so many similarities in our book, and had I known you before, I think I would have called you during COVID. It feels like we did a lot of this the same. There was so much going on with female rage that I had it. So I gave it to one of my characters, and it was really cathartic. She was just seeing things in a different way, and I think that was really, I don't always recognize what I'm doing, but when I look back, I realize like, oh, I was just writing through all of these things that you never question about what a woman should be and what a woman should do and how they should act, and there was just so much happening, and so yeah, I was putting it on the page.
Yeah, I don't know how much of mine was personal. Like I don't think I tend to be an angry person. But this particular character has just a lot of life experiences, and that's just kind of how she reacts. I use the Enneagram a lot for character development. I don't know if you guys are familiar. So the personality type that I chose for her is one that has a lot of anger. But she kind of comes in at a level 10. But the thing that I was interested in about with her is I read a book about character development, and it was talking about third level emotions, right? So with her, what presents is anger. The emotion that she's actually feeling is grief, but that is way, way down. And in her, it's manifesting as anger. And I feel like she just kind of, I don't feel like she builds to it, she builds to the release. And the other thing that I was writing about was the strange feeling I had when we adopted my son. So we were in the delivery room, we adopted him as a newborn. My husband is the loveliest, sweetest, most gentle man, the most amazing father, the most amazing husband. And when we had an infant, I was constantly filled with rage at my husband's, like unbelievable. Yeah, I hear some knowing laughs out there. It's so weird. And it's like, I hadn't given birth. It wasn't hormonal. It was just like sleep deprivation and rage. And I've had so many people come to me afterwards, so many parents come to me and say, thank you. I felt the exact same way, and I never felt comfortable sharing that. And so that was a really wonderful thing about her anger.
I mean, both of you, it was so natural, the development and the moment where each of them had sort of burst open. So I thought, wanted to ask about that. So Eleanor, as you mentioned about the adoption, you provided different portraits of potential adopting parents in there. So I wanted to hear a little bit about maybe your research in doing that, or how you identify those different archetypes.
Sure. So when I knew that I wanted to write about adoption, and that was the first time that I'd ever come to a book and been like, I'm going to write about a capital I issue. And I wanted to get as many perspectives and ideas out there because I knew from my experience with adoption, like we have this very specific narrative about it, okay? There's a couple who has fertility issues and they adopt as their last resort. And that is not the story at all. It is the story for some people, but it wasn't the story for us. It's not the story for lots and lots of other people. So I really wanted to broaden people's idea of what adoption is. And then this question of, I think a lot of us are familiar with closed adoption, which was the situation for a very, very long time where there was no contact between the adoptee and their biological family. And in some cases, how many times have you signed the word family? What is it? Oh, I love that. What was I talking about? Oh, closed adoption, right. And even secret, right? I mean, there was sort of this time period where it was really shameful and people didn't even know they were adopted. And, and then 23andMe and Ancestry.com came along and now there's no more family secrets. So I just wanted to get as many perspectives and stories in as I possibly could. So that was one reason that I have 3 different sets of parents coming in here. And then I have these portraits of hopeful adoptive families. And I talked to a lot of people because I didn't want this only to be about our adoptive experience. I talked to families who'd adopted through foster care, families who'd done international adoption, adult adoptees. There might be one of the adult adoptees I interviewed here. Brian, are you here? Hi, Brian. Brian and I went to elementary school together, and when I was writing this book, I remembered that she was adopted, and so she very sweetly read the book. So I just talked to a lot of people, and then tried to put in ways that would force the reader to have to answer the question, what makes a good family? Because if you get pregnant biologically and you tell people, they say, congratulations, when are you due? But if you tell people that you're adopting, they say, well, what makes you think you're going to be a good parent? Why do you want kids? Can I see the last 3 years of your tax returns so I can tell whether you're financially stable? Can you tell me in great detail about your sex life with your spouse? And you have to go through classes, right? So it's all of these things, and I really wanted to ask that question, like, how do you know? What is it that makes a good parent? And how do you choose? Like, what does it feel like to choose?
Thank you. I highly recommend these two books. I'll just say that. Jennifer, I'm going to ask you a question that I'm sure you get asked a lot. Marrying the Ketchups. Can you talk a little bit about the title?
Sure. Eleanor said something that so many people have said to me where she was like, I just thought it was a wedding happening in the Ketchup family. That was not my original title. I do think it's the right one. It was originally the title of the first section. And it's for anyone who has waitressed. It's at the end of service, you take all like the half-empty ketchup bottles and you put them together. And when I started waitressing, I just remember the first time that I saw that and I was like, oh my God, this is so gross. And I had never thought about why there was always a brand new bottle of ketchup. And the answer is there's not. I don't think people really do it anymore. I do think that there is, because when you watch it happen, it's messy and you're taking rags. And I just sort of liked that idea of sort of the behind the scenes of restaurants, that if you've never worked in one, you just kind of never think about it. And then once you have worked in one, you sort of can't unsee it. And I have, I only waitressed for a few years when I was in college, and even I would almost never send something back. It would have to be, there's different things that I do, and I have one of my friends who's run a restaurant, and she's very no nonsense as a customer, and it's almost like she expects, like she's running their restaurant. I'm like, you have to stop. I have another friend who always takes this is a bunch of, this is not exactly what you asked, but I have a friend who like clears the plates, and I'm like, you don't work here. Yeah, you can stop doing that. But I did like the idea. Once I sort of came to accept the title, my editor really, really wanted this to be the title, and she kept just asking and asking, and it was sometime during COVID. I was like, yeah. She was like, wait, really? We can call it that? I'm like, sure. But I did like this idea that people who know what it is, and people that don't get to learn. But yeah, it's sort of like the, behind the scenes and the guests of the restaurant.
So you just brought up your editor, and I was curious to know what was the relationship between you and your editor. I think, Eleanor, you just mentioned that it was pretty open during COVID because you both had time. But if you can talk a little bit about the role of the editor in writing your book and how things changed or moved.
I want to hear your question.
Sure. So I sold this on a partial, which means they'd only seen an outline and 3 chapters when they bought it. So I really wanted my editor involved in this. I wanted her to talk to me about it as we went. And the other thing that was great about her is that this is very much a story about adoption and about parenthood, and it's also just about family. And she's very young and doesn't have kids, and so it was really great to have her perspective on things, because I knew that if it resonated with her, it would resonate with people beyond, right, that very specific target audience. And she was really invaluable. She had some great questions. There was an additional character early on that I had to kill off, R.I.P., I don't even remember his name. Sorry, you had to go. But she was really, every time I would come to her, I feel like she would be like, oh my gosh, here comes Eleanor with another one of these crazy ideas again. But she would always hear me out. And one of the things that I did with those little hopeful adoptive parent pieces we were talking about was that I wanted to make something really attractive about each of them and something really unattractive about each of them. And so when she would come back to me and say, I don't think this is working, I got to say, okay, well, you don't think it's working, or you don't like these people, right? You don't think these people would be good parents. So just that sort of sounding board relationship was so helpful to me, and it kept me a little bit from being lonely in 2020, but she was fabulous.
Yeah, I also sold it on a partial, and this is my 4th book with the same editor, so we know each other well. There was just a lot that I threw out of this book. There was a lot of characters that had POVs. There was a lot of stuff I was trying to do, but yeah, it's nice to have you can get so lost in the middle of a book, or I don't know if you do. I get so lost where I'm like, what is this about? Who are these people? And it is nice to have someone come back and say, this is working, or this isn't working, or this joke is inappropriate, which happened to me. You know, or I have these chapters throughout where it's where the characters are when the Cubs win the World Series, which as a lifelong Cubs fan, yay, yay, so nice. That I really wanted them in, and she kept saying, she wasn't against them, but she was like, I don't get it. And I was like, I know, but I do, and people will. And it's interesting to have to, because she will never outright say you have to take something out, but it does make you think about it, and it just is helpful for, I had to really think about it and think like, no, I really want those chapters in. This is an important part of the book. And yeah, it just makes you question what you're doing and make sure that you believe in it, so.
But it is good that you can set that boundary sometimes, right? My first book had a 420 joke in it, which, if you don't know what that is, come to Colorado, we'll tell you. And my editor didn't get it. And every time she read the book, she would say, I don't get it, cut it. I was like, no, it's staying in, sorry.
That's great. Can you tell us about other books that are coming out of you in the next years to come?
I'm working on one now. It's slow going, and I'm trying to do, because I think this book ended up, I could make like 5 different books from all the things that I've written and thrown away. I moved recently, and it was so nice to throw out all the drafts. I used to be very attached to them, and I was like, get these out of here. I don't know what this was. My next book takes place at a country club, and there's a death that's suspicious, and it takes place it's very different. It takes place in like 1 or 2 weeks after that, and it's, you know, I'm trying a little bit to be more organized in how I'm writing, which is just my challenge for myself, so that I don't wander off too far. And I always tell my students, like, write whatever you want, just write, you'll figure it out later, which I do believe in, but I think I took that a little bit to heart with Marrying the Ketchups, and that's why I was like, this is from the point of view of someone who works in the, you know, they were like, what are you doing? Like, it's from the point of view of the hamburger that they're serving. You know, I didn't really do that, but I got pretty close. So yeah, it's fun so far. It's strange to sort of get lost in a new book, but I'm just starting to feel like the new book is the thing I've let this other one go, and I'm into this new world, so.
It's funny because I heard an interview with you where you were talking about that, and that's actually, so my first book I wrote without any plan, and it was multiple characters, and yeah, sometimes one was like, you know, a month ahead of the other ones, and it was total chaos, and after that I was like, I'm never doing that again. So I tell my students, you're going to have to outline at some point, and you can do it before you start, you can do it in the middle when you're totally lost, or you can do it at the end when you have a big knot and you need to untie it, but you're going to have to do it sometimes. So it's funny, when I heard you say that, I was like, oh no. What am I working on now? So I'm actually on hiatus because I have 2 projects that are finished. I mean, I have a draft of them, and I'm going to decide which one I want to go back to. But unsurprisingly, one is a family novel, which is what all my books are, like Jennifer. And I had a friend text me the other day, and she was like, just hypothetically, do you have any book recommendations for somebody who likes books by Eleanor Brown? And I was like, oh, can I recommend Jennifer Close? And the other one is a young adult novel, which kind of sprang from nowhere, and I don't know if I want to pursue it or not. So I'm on hiatus right now, trying to figure that out.
So, Eleanor, you said you were a Jennifer Close fan, and Jennifer, you're reading Eleanor's book. I'm wondering if either of you have questions for each other.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I just got nervous. Well, it was funny when last night when I saw Eleanor, one of my favorite things about the book is the little interludes that aren't the 3 main characters.
Right.
Because I had done something similar, and we met for, it was like 1 minute, and then I was like, so did they fight back on that? Remember, I was like, did they push back on that? And they're styled differently. I don't know. I guess this is my question now that you just said it. Do you outline right from the start? You know exactly what's going to happen?
I do now, but I also give myself grace to change it as it goes, right? Like, so that Ginger's boyfriend, fiance, whatever, what was his name? He was lovely.
Is he the one that you killed?
Yes. Well, I mean, I didn't actually kill him. I just took him out of the book. But he was very nice. He was like a .com billionaire. He was really nice. But I always feel, you said you were going to throw away your manuscripts. I'm like, I might keep that and use
Oh,
some
it's
of that
saved on my
later.
computer. I just
Yeah.
mean the actual,
Oh, the physical thing.
the
Oh, no,
things that
forgot
make
about
me
that.
like a borderline hoarder. Yeah, where it's like, yeah.
So yeah, there's like color-coded Post-it notes. I told you, like the Pinterest mom is strong in me. There's color-coded Post-it notes. There's, multiple notebooks with like the little Freytag's pyramid that you all did in 6th grade to outline a story. Do you remember that? Yeah, I do that. I think I really had to start it because my second novel was a dual timeline novel. There was one set in 1924 and one set in 1999, and I just would have been totally lost without it. But yeah. What was the title before Marrying the Ketchups that you wanted? And did your editor come up with Marrying the Ketchups?
No, it's not a good title. I will admit that now, but I really fought for it. No, Marrying the Ketchups, so there's 3 sections, and Marrying the Ketchups was always the title of the first section, and that's why from the start she said, can we call it that? The title was Wait, with a period. And
Like
I thought it was,
W-A-I-T?
yep, and I was like, this is very clever because it's about waiting for the Cubs to win and waiting for your life to start and waiting tables, and I've never, just so across the board, everyone was like, ugh, no. I was like, all right, yeah. I've always had to change my titles. Ever since my first book, which I never meant for that to be the title, and everyone was like, it's a great title. And I was like, all right, great, we'll go with it. I've had to change the titles of all of my other books. Really? Yeah. So it's hard.
It is hard, and I feel like no matter what I title it, this is what I've learned. So my first novel was The Weird Sisters, which is a great title. Everybody gets it wrong. They're like the Wicked Sisters, the Vile Sisters, like nobody gets it right. And so I feel like that kind of let me release because I was like, whatever I title it, people are gonna still go into a bookstore and say, it has the flowers on the cover, right? So it's fine. So I kind of let go of it.
Okay, so now I'm going to let the audience have their questions, but before I get to that, both of you had put family trees in your novels, and I'm having a public service announcement for the Library of Congress because from 2:30 to 3 on the Library of Congress stage, we have this African American genealogical research program that you can come to the Library of Congress and do genealogical research. So just in keeping with this family theme, I just want to promote the Library of Congress as an opportunity for the future. But now I'd really love for audience members to ask questions. If you have any, please.
Can I
Mics?
ask Jennifer another question?
Oh, yes,
Can I ask
please,
about
while
the
we're
family
waiting,
tree?
yes.
Like,
Oh.
did you want that put in, or they asked you to put it in, and what was the purpose of it?
No, it was a suggestion towards the very end. It was when they were styling the book, which is, I think I had even maybe already read copy edits of it, the first round, and they just said there's a lot of people in here, and because I switch, sometimes I'll say like mom, and then I'll call them by their first name. It was all over the place, and they thought it might be helpful, and I really like them. I was kind of like, yeah, let's put it in. I know who these people are because I've been with them for years, but sure. And then it's funny, when I saw yours, I was so happy because I have been flipping back. It's very helpful. It's a great guide. Yeah.
See, I resent it. Like, I was initially like, I don't know, because if I open a book and like there's a map or there's like 3 pages of characters, I'm like, I am too tired for this. I can't do this. But I think that a little bit of the reason that we wanted it in there was because, like many adoptive parents, I live in mortal fear of the day that my child's teacher is going to assign. Because somehow, after all this time and after all these complicated family relationships, we have not yet figured out how to represent an adoptive family tree well. So I was saying to Jennifer last night, there are times at which you just turn it over to the designers because you're like, you are more qualified than I am. My editor was like, what do you think the family tree should look like? And it's like, there must be people more qualified than me to figure this out. So that's interesting that you wanted it. But if you're going back to it, great. I'm glad we put it in there.
So we have some questions.
Yes. Thank you so very much for giving us a peek into your personal writing experience. And I'm just very curious, when you hit a wall, you know how like marathon runners hit that wall and there's just nothing there? When you hit a wall with your characters, what are some of the things that you do to break through that wall?
Oh, that's a great question. I also say all the time, I don't really believe in writer's block, and then I listen to myself, and I'm like, ugh, who said that? Yeah. I'll just write from a different perspective or write a different scene. That is when I do actually believe what I say about just writing anything that feels fun. Like Ann Patchett, who I believe is a genius, says like, don't write out of order. I'm like, I didn't write out of order. I would never finish anything. So sometimes I'll go to a scene that I'm really excited about or just sort of write something random that might not make it in often once you start, it's actually a lot like exercise when you talk about running. Once you start, then you can keep going. It's sometimes you just need to, like the act of typing gets you going. I don't know what you do.
No, I would say that my
Yeah.
answers are very similar. Like I encourage, I've tried to write just first person, one character, and I just can't. I can't even. So yeah, switching to another character is great. I don't tend to get blocked. I can always write. It's just that what I write isn't any good, and it's really for your protection that I do not let it out into the world. So I think I just keep writing until I find it again, because you can always delete it later. I mean, if we were like chiseling on stone tablets, maybe my answer would be very different. But yeah, just keep writing. Just put anything on the page.
Yeah. And I will say too, if anyone out there is a writer, I really enjoy character questionnaires. And they are, if you are ever really blocked on a character, they have like, what's in your character's refrigerator? What's on their nightstand? Do they spring clean? Like all these things, that's the Gotham character questionnaire. But one question that was on one I had years ago was, what's your character's most embarrassing moment? And I believe, I might be wrong, but I think that question has somehow made it into every book that I'm writing. And so I do like those if you're just trying to like jumpstart something. Yeah.
So my question is on these characters. How long do you have to live with them before you know what's in their refrigerator? Do they talk to you? Elizabeth Strout or Marilyn Robinson said her character, she can hear them talking. So does that happen to you guys as you're writing about these people?
It takes a while. I mean, I will say I like knowing this because I think when I was a younger writer, I felt worried if I didn't know what was in the refrigerator. And it's sort of like getting to know someone, where it's like you learn it little by little and you realize like, oh, I know them. They were, they love animals or they hate dogs or, whatever it is that you learn about them as you go. And some are easier to get to know than others, which I think is also just a really weird thing. I do hear them talking to me, and it's toward the end. Again, I think the first person book I wrote was the worst because I loved this character, but she was very passive, and she was like, that was the one where I was like, shut up, I don't want to write you anymore. But yeah, I mean, there is one point in the process, I don't know if this is how you feel, where like you're kind of flooded with that. It's almost too much, and then but yes, I could talk in their voice, I could tell you what they like, what they're watching on TV, what they had for dinner, and you kind of build to that point, and then that's sort of like the perfect storm when you get to know it. Yeah.
I do have to work through that though. Like I remember very clearly going through this because these are 3 different characters, and I really wanted their voices to be distinct. So I remember going through and I had to make rules for each of the characters. So one of the characters, for instance, never says kids. She always says the children. So I had to go through and make sure. Another one, it was something about the way she started her sentences. She always starts with honestly, And so I had to make sure nobody else did that. So I think that you just kind of get to know them intimately, or you just decide. I mean, these are made up people, so you can just be like, here is what is in your refrigerator, and you're gonna have to cope with
But
it.
it's so easy to forget that when you're like, I'm in charge.
Right,
I
yeah.
can put whatever I want in your refrigerator, because it doesn't always feel like that. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
You both talked about that you teach and you have students. I wondered if you could maybe talk a little bit about that, where you teach, what you teach, and perhaps do you have a favorite teacher in your past who's like inspired you?
Yeah, so I actually don't teach anymore. I work very part-time at my son's preschool. That's super fun. They pay me to hold babies, which is very nice. But I taught writing for a very long time through Lighthouse Writers Workshop, which does offer online courses if any of you are interested. And that was so great in forcing me to be able to articulate things that I just do as a writer and to really make my process manifest. But actually, I think even more helpful for that was that I taught middle school for 8 years. And I know some of you are groaning, but I loved it. They are so fun. There is no filter between here and here. So you just get whatever they're thinking. It's great. And if you say to them, let's do something fun, they're not too cool to say, okay. And again, it was about articulating. It was like, how do you teach someone how to sentence variety? How do you teach someone how to incorporate all their senses into writing? So just that work of really thinking it through was great. And I come from a family of teachers. Don't ask me to choose my favorite. I have been blessed with so many. A number of them are thanked in the acknowledgments of my books, just because they've had such a huge and lasting impact on me.
Yeah. I agree that it was when I started teaching. So I teach at Catapult, which is also online, and it's a novel writing class, and it was that class that made me write out my process, and that's when I realized, like, oh, good Lord, what is this? So I was like, just write until you feel something, yeah. But it actually did help me start to see, because I would always say, I'm a messy writer, I don't have a process, but I do have a process, it's just messy. And then I also teach at GW, which I just last week went back for the first time in 3 years, and I really love teaching college, and I think part of it is because one of my writing teachers from college, Steve Almond, was so important. Yeah.
Yes, Steve Almond. There you go. There's a great writer.
Yeah, he was really important in my, like, I always wanted to be a writer, but you don't know how to do that, you know, and it seemed like a dream. It seemed like I'd like to be a pony, or, you know. And he was great for a lot of reasons. One, he took us very seriously, and two, he gave us like a lot of practical information about how to actually be a writer and what to do. And so he is just, I just always say, like, I hope I would have found it eventually, but I took his class senior year, and that was when I was like, I'm doing this. I really feel strongly about it. And I love teaching college because I think there's a lot of students that have always loved reading and writing but don't really know what to do. And so I like being the person. One year at GW, I had 2 students who were, and the GW kids are so smart, and they come in and they're doing public policy and foreign policy, and I think, well, foreign policy and international affairs, I had 2 students, that was their majors, and they both came to me after my class and they were like, I want to be a writing major, and I just thought, like, oh God, your parents are gonna kill me. But it's so fun because I love, like, sort of reintroducing it. Depending on what your major is in college, you can go a long time without writing or reading, you know, and so it's really fun to see that happen and to see them remember, like, I love this, so.
Okay, we have time for one more question.
Oh,
Thank you.
hooray. Thank you. This panel has been so interesting, and I'm a big fan of both of your work, and I'm actually in the middle of reading Eleanor's book right now. You mentioned a book you read on character development and third-level emotion. What is the book?
I do not remember the book, but it's one of Donald Maas's books, M-A-A-S. I don't remember what it is. And also, since she brought up Steve Almond, so Steve's first novel is out. He has a number of short story collections, a couple of nonfiction books, but he has this wonderful little chapbook that you can only get online through, I think, Harvard Bookstore, called This Won't Take But a Minute, Honey. And it is like all the brilliant lessons that he teaches about writing in this teeny tiny little book. And then if you flip it over, the other side is naughty stories. But
I didn't know about that, but I will.
Oh, it's great.
All the paper that I keep, actually, when I first started teaching at GW, like over a decade ago, I don't know, I went and found my syllabus from his class. It pays to be a hoarder of papers. Yeah, and I just copied it because he had great exercises. So that's amazing. Oh, I will get that.
Yeah. So we've come to the end of the session. Thank you all for your attention. Jennifer and Eleanor are going to be signing books from 1:30 to 2:30. So please head downstairs, and I'm sure that you will enjoy reading these two books and all the ones before and after. So thank you both.
Thank you so much, Sue.